few months ago, we were sailing on the Carnival Mardi Gras. 9 days of sunshine, soft serve ice cream, and absolutely zero drama. Our cabin was on the Lido deck, tucked way back in a quiet little hallway near the elevators. It was so hidden that for 9 days straight, the only human being we saw out there was our steward. No kids running, no drunk karaoke wanderers, just silence. It was a perfect day, until the last full day. We were walking back from lunch full and happy when out of nowhere this guy appears and starts talking. Not a casual hey, not a passing comment, a full blown, locked in conversation. He seemed sober, maybe just overly enthusiastic, the kind of energy that feels like a golden retriever who's had too much coffee. We smiled politely, we gave short answers, we slowed down, we sped up, nothing worked. He matched our pace exactly, narrating our entire walk like we were already best friends. You ladies want to hit up the comedy club? What about the pool? Let's paint the town red. For context, we're middle aged lesbians, very obviously together, very clearly not looking to paint anything. It didn't even feel like he was hitting on us, it felt like he just desperately needed company and had chosen us. Finally, we reached the elevators, sweet escape. My partner peeled off toward the casino. I headed back to our cabin alone. The hallway was quiet again. The soft cruise ship home, carpet under my sandals. I remember thinking how peaceful it felt after all that chatter. Then, right before I reached our door, something made my skin prickle. You know that feeling like your body notices something before your brain does? I turned around. At the far end of the hallway near the entrance door, I saw the top of his head quickly duck out of sight. He was peeking around the corner, watching me. My stomach dropped. I walked past our cabin pretending I forgot something, thinking I'd loop around and lose him, except I forgot one tiny detail. Dead end. So now I'm standing at the end of this narrow hallway with nowhere to go, heart pounding, trying to act calm. I wait a minute. Maybe he'll leave. I step back around the corner, and there he is. And when he sees me, he ducks again. Now it's just the two of us in this bizarre, silent standoff. Me by my cabin door, him halfway through the hallway entrance. We just stare at each other. This is the same man who would not stop talking 5 minutes ago. Now, completely silent. Blank expression, no moving. I can finally find my voice. Can you leave? Nothing. I say it again louder. Still nothing. Just staring. And this is where I completely abandon dignity. I take a deep breath and unleash the most primal wordless scream of my life. Not sentences, not insults, just pure alarm system energy. A very confused guest cracks open their cabin door. I yell, "Can you call security?" And here's the truly disturbing part. He doesn't react. Doesn't flinch, doesn't speak, doesn't run. He just stands there like someone unplugged in mid conversation. Security arrives, they try talking to him. Nothing. No response, no explanation, just blank silence. Eventually, they escort him away, still not saying a word, and that was it. We never see him again. No idea what happened, no idea what he wanted. But in 9 days on that floating city with thousands of people, endless buffets, dance parties, and comedy shows, that quiet, carpeted hallway on the Lido deck was hands down the most unsettling part of the entire cruise. To this day, I don't know what was worse, the nonstop talking or the silence. Devin had been counting down her 21st birthday for months, and what better way to celebrate than with a wild cruise to the Bahamas with her closest friends? The sun was blazing, the ocean stretched endlessly around them, and the excitement was electric. Days were spent lounging by the pool, exploring the ship's endless decks, and laughing until their sides hurt. Nights were dedicated to the vibrant nightlife, on-board dancing, champagne toasts, and daring dares under the stars. It was everything Devon had imagined her birthday celebration would be, at least until the unthinkable happened. After one particularly rowdy night at the ship's main bar, Devon's carefree energy took a nosedive. Her friends were still laughing and teasing her when she realized her phone was missing. Panic crept up her spine as she retracted her steps, asking bartenders and searching tables, pockets, and even the floorboards. Nothing. Her phone had vanished, and with it, her sense of security. At first, she told herself it was just lost, someone would turn it in, but as the hours ticked by, a gnawing feeling of dread began to grow. By mid-cruise, Devon noticed something strange. She had been using a location sharing app with a friend back home to show off her adventures. That's when the first shiver ran down her spine. Her phone's location wasn't in the lost and found, it was nearby. Every time she moved, the little blue dot seemed to shadow her movements, always just out of reach, sometimes even inside the ship itself. Her heart thumped with each notification ping, though no messages came through except for one she could have never anticipated. Devin received a handwritten letter from a random individual on this ship. Devin hesitated, but curiosity and fear battled inside her before she unfolded it. The words leapt off the page. I found your phone. I've been watching you. I can't explain how, but I had to tell you. I love you. It was signed Bart Vinsky. Devin's stomach dropped. Love? Watching her? The words twisted in her mind like a nightmare taking shape. She spent the rest of the cruise trying to stay near her friends, constantly checking corners and shadows, unable to relax. Every laughter, every glance from strangers felt laden with suspicion. The Bahamas' turquoise waters and sunny skies no longer felt safe. They were just a backdrop to her growing paranoia. When she finally returned home, hoping that nightmare would end with the ship, Devin's horror escalated. Her phone's location pinged again, this time showing up inside her own house. Panic surged as she realized that the threat had followed her across miles of ocean. That night she heard faint creaks outside her bedroom door. Shadows moved where they shouldn't. She froze, heart hammering, as the truth crystallized. Someone had been inside her home, watching her every move, maybe even before she realized it. The ordeal that had started as a carefree celebration of adulthood had spiraled into a terrifying confrontation with invasion and obsession. Devin was no longer that carefree college student who had boarded that ship. She was a survivor, forced to grapple with the reality that sometimes danger isn't across the world. It can be lurking right in your own home. I had dreamed about an Alaskan cruise for years, so when my sister and I finally booked one in mid-July 2017, it felt like a reward for surviving a long, hot summer back at home. The ship held more than 3,000 passengers, yet by the second night it already felt like a floating neighborhood. We memorized the quickest path from the buffet to our interior cabin on deck 8, learned the rhythm of the theater shows, and even picked out our favorite bartender. Everything seemed calm, orderly, and safe. On the third night, July 25th, we watched the sunset paint the glaciers pink, then headed to a family game show on one of the lounges. I remember the host joking that we were all detectives solving fake mysteries while sailing through the real wilderness, though no one knew that only a few decks away a real crime was building. Around 9 p.m., we left early because my sister was feeling a little seasick. The corridor outside our room was unusually quiet. The hum of the engines were louder than normal conversation. From a cabin 2 doors down, I hear a man and a woman arguing. The man's voice was angry while the woman's voice sounded shaky, like she was trying to keep the whole thing private. I thought about knocking, but I was a stranger, and these kinds of arguments usually burn out on their own. Instead, I guided my sister into the room and turned the TV up. Minutes later, a heavy thump shook our wall, followed by a high, terrified scream. My sister's eyes widened, and before I could react, the ship's public address system crackled. Security, medical team, cabin E734. The calm tone didn't match the true panic I had in my gut. I opened our door a crack, and other passengers were peeking out of their rooms also. Then a steward sprinted past, gloves already on, and banged on E734. Ship security, open up. There was no answer, so he swiped a master key, walked inside, and shouted for backup. The next 30 seconds felt so long, silent, and then a single word echoed down the hallway. Blood, followed by retching noises. Security officers arrived with a medical cart, blocked the hallway, and ordered everyone back into their cabins. Through the viewer, I saw them drag a barefoot man out into the hallway. He wore jeans and a gray t-shirt that was almost black. Blood covered his forearms up to the elbows. He kept repeating, "She wouldn't stop laughing at me." When one guard tried to cuff him, he jerked toward the open balcony door like he still wanted to throw something or someone overboard. They forced him into the deck and zip-tied his wrists. For the rest of the night, we were confined. Crew members went door to door taking witness statements. One officer told us there had been a serious incident, and a female passenger was unresponsive. No names were released, but rumors spread in whispers through the ventilation shafts. The couple was from Utah, and they were celebrating an anniversary. and their children had been in the next cabin. People cried quietly behind thin walls. You go on a cruise to get away from the normal life, not to bump into murder at arm's length. At dawn, the captain announced that we would divert to Juneau so the FBI could board. When they finally let us walk the corridor, cabin E734 was sealed with crime scene tape. A smear of dark red remained on the cream-colored carpet even after the cleaners tried bleaching it. Everyone stared, snapped photos, and hurried away like spectators at a crash site, pretending to be late for breakfast. During the rest of the voyage, I kept replaying the sounds, the dull thud, the loud scream, that sentence, "She wouldn't stop laughing at me." The children's cabin was now guarded. Every time I saw two teenage girls escorted to eat under watch, I felt a knot in my chest. It struck me that there's nowhere to run on a ship. You share walls, air, and lifeboats with whoever climbs aboard. Back home, I followed the news. The man's name was Kenneth, 43 years old, and his wife, Christy, 39 years old. Investigators said he struck her head again and again with closed fists, shattering her skull while her daughter pounded on the locked door. Other relatives pulled him away, but he tried to drag her towards the balcony before the crew tackled him. The autopsy called it blunt force trauma. In 2021, he received 30 years in federal prison, but he passed away not long after behind bars.